Nasrallah's funeral, a million voices for resistance. A human flood transformed Beirut into the global capital of freedom and sent a defiant message to the zionists and imperialists: the resistance is unbroken. Resistance is written in blood, not ink. It is proven through sacrifice, undeterred by opposition. It will unroot the occupier, even if it takes time. Resistance transcends the croaking of frogs. Quote by Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qassem. This article is reproduced from The Cradle with thanks. The sight of Lebanese resistance flags fluttering near the border with the occupation state has long unsettled Israelis. But the massive funeral that unfolded in Beirut on Sunday afternoon for the martyred former Hezbollah General Secretary Saeed Hassan Nasrallah would have commanded their undivided attention, and they were not the only ones watching. Lebanese citizens, whether supporters or critics of the resistance movement, along with its allies across the Arab and Islamic worlds, the global south, and even in Western countries where some governments oppose it, witnessed an extraordinary moment. Sunday's rare mass gathering sent an unmistakable message: the spirit of those who resist oppression will never be broken. As the New York Times observed, the event was, quote, a show of strength, end quote. The funeral reportedly drew an estimated 1.4 million attendees, nearly 25% of Lebanon's population, positioning it as one of history's most proportionally significant state funerals. In stark contrast, Mahatma Gandhi's funeral, while attracting around 2 million people, represented only 0.5% of India's population at that time. Similarly, Pope John Paul II's state funeral saw roughly 4 million participants, or 7% of Italy's population, while Arab nationalist leader Gamal Abdel Nasser's memorial gathered an estimated 3 million, also about 7% of Egypt's populace. The funerals of former Iranian Supreme Leader Ruhollah Khomeini and Quds Force Commander Qasem Soleimani drew even larger crowds in absolute terms, around 7 million each, but these numbers accounted for about 12.6% and 7.7% of Iran's population, respectively. A global gathering of defiance. From Brazil and Argentina to Ireland, India and Nigeria, passing through Iran, Iraq, Turkey, Yemen, Tunisia, Algeria, Egypt and the Persian Gulf states, voices rose in unison. Sunni and Shia Muslims, Druze, Christians and Jews, people from distant lands, converged on a single spot just 120,000 square meters in size, Beirut's Sports City Stadium. During that moment, it felt as if the whole world's righteous were raising their fists against universal injustice. The occupation state had hoped to end a resistance embodied by Hassan Nasrallah and his cousin and heir apparent Hashim Safieddine when they assassinated him 5 months ago. But the mourners, who had long postponed their grief for this very moment, transformed the funeral into a new pledge of allegiance, an act of defiance that shattered the psychological siege imposed by its opponents and enemies. Indeed, the slogan for the event was Inna Allah al-Ad, we are in covenant. The attendees came from over 80 countries. Lebanese, Palestinians and Syrians from across Lebanon arrived, many on foot, braving the bitter cold, trekking tens of kilometres, whilst others spent Saturday night at the stadium. A funeral without fear. When low-flying Israeli fighter jets roared overhead just half an hour into the ceremony, no one flinched. Even when they repeated the provocation 30 minutes later, the crowd erupted into defiant chants of Hayat Minna al-Dila, we will never accept humiliation, a phrase famously attributed to the Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura, often echoed by Nasrallah throughout his decades of activism and leadership. The contradictions in the scene were striking. A leader of global stature carried on the shoulders of his people as they mourned him without fear, even after one of the most brutal wars the enemy has ever waged on Palestine and Lebanon. Their sorrow was overwhelming, but their resolve was stronger. Inside the stadium and in the surrounding streets, where hundreds of thousands had gathered, men, women and children, many of them unable to hold back their tears, the atmosphere was charged with defiance. They raised their fists, facing down the assassin and all he represents as a symbol of colonialism in West Asia, chanting, "Labakia, Ya Nasrallah, at your service, O Nasrallah." More than a man, a movement. The message was clear. Hassan Nasrallah was more than a man. He was an idea, a symbol of resistance, not just because he defended Palestine and Lebanon, but because, for 3 decades, he stood with the oppressed, fought tyranny, and resisted Zionist and Western hegemony. This was no ordinary funeral. The million-strong gathering, despite all threats and intimidation, was not just an expression of grief, but a declaration of unwavering allegiance to the path of the martyred leader. It was a global statement against oppression in all its forms. Out of respect for the martyr, and because of requests made by Hezbollah, not a single bullet was fired during the funeral, a traditional tribute at important Arab gatherings. That is loyalty. One of the mourners speaking to the cradle, Ahmed from Kuwait, explained, quote, "We are here because we need to be here. These people affirm that resistance is a way of life, and it will continue." End quote. Women and youth pushing through the tightly packed crowds, clutching pictures of the slain leader, were overcome with grief. They exchanged glances with strangers as if offering condolences for their shared sorrow, but their heads remained high. Their devotion to the resistance would endure, as pledged by Nasrallah's successor, General Secretary Naim Qasim, who addressed the martyred Nasrallah. Quote, "We remain true to our oath. Rest assured, Sayyid Nasrallah. The leadership is here, the fighters are here, the resistance movements are here, the brave warriors are here, the people from all sects are here, and the entire nation is here." End quote. For hours, Beirut sent a resounding message to the free people of the world, Arabs, Muslims and beyond, that, if only for a brief moment, it had become the global capital of freedom. Their true weapon was their will, and they remained unbroken. Their unity was inevitable, and it had only grown stronger. And when heroic martyrs fall, like Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Labi Ben Midi, Amilcar Cabral, Che Guevara, and Mehdi Ben Barka, they do not die. They become sparks that illuminate the paths for generations to follow. This was not merely a Lebanese event. Dozens of planes had landed in Beirut the night before the funeral. Mohammed, a mourner in his 30s from Baghdad, told the cradle, quote, "By coming here, we complete ourselves. The messages of resistance will continue." End quote. Abdullah from Egypt, carrying his national flag, declared, quote, "I am here because I am free. Nasrallah represents us. Israel is a criminal entity, and anyone who resists it represents me and millions of Egyptians." End quote. The resistance lives on. History has witnessed many sacrifices and leaders who fought colonialism and occupation and whose deaths shook the world. But in recent decades, no funeral of this scale, relative to the population, has taken place. Estimates suggest that over a quarter of Lebanon's 5.4 million people participated, an unprecedented figure in the country's history. As General Secretary Naim Qasim stated in his speech, quote, "You are an undefeated people. We will stand together, resist together, and pledge our allegiance together. The resistance supporters and the Lebanese people have united as one. Praise be to God. This gathering is a true expression of national unity, Arab unity, Islamic unity, and human unity around Palestine and justice." End quote. Mohammed Muls, a member of the Leadership Council of the Islamic Action Front in Lebanon, told the Cradle that the massive and well-organised turnout, along with the speech of Hezbollah's new General Secretary, demonstrated the political and military resilience of the resistance. However, he added that the responsibility for continuing this resilience does not rest solely on the party. It must be upheld by everyone. Quote, "We in the Islamic Action Front will stand alongside the resistance under the banner. We remain true to our oath." End quote. Muls, who hailed from the northern city of Tripoli, added, quote, "In the wake of this massive funeral, we feel an even greater responsibility towards the causes that have united us with the resistance, foremost among them the cause of the Palestinian. Palestine is a right, and it is our compass." End quote. Named Kazim continued. But the messages of loyalty and unity from Lebanon were equally significant. Quote, "It seems there are many people who are confused about us. One moment they analyse that we are finished, that the resistance is over, but the resistance continues, present and prepared. No one can strip us of this right. Resistance is the choice of the free peoples for liberation. Resistance is written in blood, not ink. It is proven through sacrifice, undeterred by opposition. It will uproot the occupier, even if it takes time. Resistance transcends the croaking of frogs." End quote. These words will echo through the halls of the sprawling US Embassy in Beirut, the second largest diplomatic mission in the world, and among those who, from the first days of Palestine's Operation Alaska Flood, gambled on the resistance's collapse. Quote, "To those who claim sovereignty, wake up," end quote, the General Secretary advised.